Hello and welcome to freelywhole Creative, and a special welcome to all my new subscribers. Thank you for joining us. I'm Liberty, your creativity coach from freelywhole.com, where we're making beauty from ashes. Today's tutorial is a tag pocket with hidden journal spot. This idea was inspired from scrapbooking with me, crafts, but of course I changed it a bit, as I always do. So you've got a tag pocket, you've got a tag inside, and you've got a hidden journal spot inside. Today we are making a tag pocket with a hidden journal in it. And it is really super simple and just going to need a few supplies. So let's take a peek at what we have here. We have a small tag in a pocket, then the flap lifts up, and we have another tag in a pocket that comes out, and then we have a little hidden flap here that opens up to reveal the pocket that the other tag was in, and a hidden journaling spot. So this just flips up and tucks behind that pocket to hide your little journaling spot back there. And then this flips over, and this tag is what holds this flap down. So let's take a look at the supplies we're going to need today. And like I said, super simple. You're just going to need some scraps, a couple of cardstock scraps. This is 12-inch cardstock, and you want about 3 inches wide or so. You can probably do it with a little bit wider. This one's 3 inches wide, so you need 1 strip of that. Double-sided is great if you've got that, because then you don't have to do anything else to decorate the other side. You need a second strip of scrap to make your pockets and tags out of. And then you need a strip of dyed paper or copy paper or whatever you want for your journaling spot. This is the full 11 inches long of the paper and 2 3/4 inches wide. So in addition to your papers, you'll need a few tools. You'll need either a paper trimmer or a pair of scissors. Optionally, if you want, if you've got a tag punch to punch your corners off, otherwise you can just cut those off again with just scissors. Same with a corner rounder, or just cut those however you want them. And then if you want to cut thumb notches in your pockets, you can either use a circle punch and just take a little nip out of the top, or what I like for these shaped pockets is to use my envelope punch board to create this little notch for my thumb notches. And then if you want to use either a hole punch or a ribbon punch to put your ribbons in the top of your tags. You'll need some glue to hold it together. If you like to ink your edges, you'll need some ink and a blending tool. And then you'll need just whatever you want to decorate it with, and we'll get to that part later. So go grab your supplies and let's see where today's journey takes us. Since this is 12-inch paper and we are going to use most of it, I have to pull out my big trimmer, which probably isn't even fitting on screen right now completely, but I am going to trim this down to 3 inches wide, just because I know what my measurements are when I do it 3 inches wide. So this one is a little wider than that. I probably could go 3.5. But we're just going to stick with 3, and I'll bet I'll find a use for that scrap later. So I've got my main piece cut down to 3 inches wide. I'm going to cut 1.5 inches off of one end of it. And decide which end. I think I'll go ahead and go with the side that has more flowers on it. Make sure I got that straight. Okay, so that is the only cut needed in your first piece. Cut 1.5 inches off of one end of it. On your other piece, you're going to cut your pocket and your tags. So you want one piece that's about 3 inches wide, the same width as whatever you did your main piece, by about 2 3/4 inch tall. So I guess first I better see what I have in width. Yep, I've got my 3 inches, or real close to it here. You know what, just so that the music notes go the right direction, I'm going to cut this 3 inches wide, and I will probably cut it down not quite as tall. And then my other pieces I need is my tags, and I want them 4.5 inches tall each. And we've got almost that there. And then I want them 2 1/4 inches wide. Okay, so we're all done. Oops, with our cutting. Same thing, I've already got the width here, and this is just a little over 2 3/4 inch wide, so that's going to work just fine for me. Okay, so next we want to score our pieces. Our first piece, we are going to score at 2 3/4, 7, and 10. So 2 3/4 inch, 7 inch, and then 10 inches, which is just going to leave us a 1/2 inch left here since we cut 1.5 inches off. And so fold and burnish those. So our little flap is going to go to the inside, and then our big flap is going to come over the top, and then this part is going to form our pocket, and it can either go on in the matching direction, or you can use the reverse side for contrast, whichever you prefer. That's all the scoring that needs to be done on that. Your plain piece, you can either score this or just fold it. You want it to be approximately 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches. You can go up to almost 3 inches, and I had just folded mine already just to make them even. It can sometimes be easier to maybe score your first one so you know where you need it to be, and then just to accordion fold the rest of them to make sure that they're lining up with the edge and not getting bigger and bigger on you and not going wonky. And then once you've got them folded, if the edges don't all meet up and you want them to, just bring your trimmer back in and give a little evening out on the edge. So there we've got all of our pieces. The next thing I'm going to do is bring in my punch board, and we've got 3 inches wide here. So to get our notch in the middle, we'll line that up at 1.5. and give it a punch. Next one, like I said, I think, well, for one thing, you want it shorter than your fold over here, but not too much shorter. So I'm going to take just a little bit more off of that before I put my punch in. And the same thing, this is 3 inches wide, so to put my notch in, I'm going to do it at 1.5 inches. Again, you don't have to put the notches in if you don't want to, but I think you'll find that it's a little bit easier to do your tuck if you do. So I like to ink up my pieces, so that's going to be the next thing that I do before I start gluing together. You can use whatever color ink you want to do this. You don't even have to do it. I like to cover the white edges, and ground espresso is what I had handy because that's what I use a lot. So that's what I'm using. But choice is totally yours on that. I will use it a little later to do my tags when I get to them. But the next thing I want to do is put on this pocket, because I want to make sure that this is not going to cover that at all. I want it to be above so that this flap doesn't get hung up by that tag. So I probably am going to take just a smidgen off of it before I round its corners. So I'm going to go ahead and glue on my pocket. And for this one, I am just gonna leave it the same color or same design as the rest of the folder. I'm gonna let my contrast come in with my tag. So glue this onto the bottom, lining up your side edges. And fold this down and make sure it goes above there, and mine needs just a smidgen trimmed off. And then I can re-ink that white edge and use my corner rounder. And of course I should have rounded the corners before I inked, because now I've got white edges there. But this is how this is going to fold together, and we're not going to do any more gluing together of this. It's going to be able to open, and we can see that the flap part doesn't go quite down to the pocket, so we can get our tag in our pocket. And I can see that I cut my tags at the wrong length because it's too tall, but we'll get to that later. We'll finish up our gluing, which is to take our inside pocket and glue it around the 3 edges that are not notched. Be sure it's above the fold mark there. Line it up on the sides and make sure that it's not as tall as your fold here, so that this can go tucked inside of that pocket. So once you're sure that that placement is going to work, that your fold comes above the top of that pocket a little bit, glue that down. And then next I'm going to ink up my edges a little bit on my dyed paper. And make sure that's accordion folded, and then it can be glued in. Again, you want to make sure that it's not hindered by any of your fold lines. And we're just going to glue a little bit at the top on there. Place it between our score lines and centered down the middle of our flap there. And then next, we want to angle these edges so that they can tuck into this pocket here to make our hidden area. So we want a pretty sharp angle on those. If you want your angles to be the same, you can add the corner, the first one that you cut, and line it up with the other one and make your second cut. That way they'll be somewhat the same. And I'm going to give this just a minute to dry. I don't want to pull it out, but this is then going to tuck in to your pocket back here. And when it does, it might only tuck halfway in. That's why this little notch is so helpful there, because it'll be much easier to get this in and out if you've got that notch there. The other thing is, depending on how far in your glue came, you might have to cut just a little bit in along your score line before making your cut there, and you might have to cut this a little narrower. Just do whatever you need to cut that. Now let's see what happened with my tags here, that I got them too long. Obviously your tag needs to not come over your score line there, so let me chop these down a little bit further. I think I went a whole inch too long. I bet it was supposed to be 3 3/4 maybe. That looks much better. Tag in the pocket there. Fold this up and into the pocket there. Again, I'm not going to do it right now because that glue isn't totally dried, but you want to make sure this lays nice and flat. So re-burnish it if you need to. Then the top flap over, and your last pocket will go in there and hold it all together. So I'll go ahead, now that I've got my pockets, or tags, the right size, I'm going to cut the corners of them. Again, you could do it exactly the same way as we cut the corners on that little tiny flap there if you don't have a tag punch. And on my other one, I did use the ribbon punch to punch out there and to add my ribbon in. I think I'm going to hold off on this one, as I may want a little tab added to the top instead. So for now, I'm just going to ink up the edges. Okay, now we'll put it together and close it up to show you how it all works. Put the tag in the pocket here, fold this up and tuck it in there. Fold this over and tuck this tag in here. And we have a tag pocket with a hidden journal, and I will be back after I pick out my decorations for this. I'm back, but I'm not going to have time to decorate our tags for this second little pocket that we made here because I'm going to be out of the studio for a week. But I will tell you a couple of tips for this, and I'll show pictures of this one completed on my blog post. But the main thing you want to remember, because we are putting a tag in a pocket here, this one's not as important for this tip, but on this one here, this tag needs to remain pretty flat. So we don't want to do a ton of embellishment, especially thick things on this. As you notice on my tags here, I used mainly stamping, some washi, and some stickers, just a little piece of ephemera there. So you can very simply decorate your tags. And the inside pocket, again, you want to keep this flat. The other thing is the backs of my cardstock. It was double-sided cardstock, so the back was very light on both of the pieces that I've done here. So I'm just using that for my journaling spot. It'll work out just fine. If you want to, you could back your tags with some more of the coffee dyed paper, but again, you're going to be adding more bulk the more layers you put onto these. So go over to my website and check out the finished products and the additional pictures in about a week, and go enjoy your craft. Thanks for joining me on our creative journey today. I hope that you were inspired. I also hope that you'll subscribe, comment, like, share, all those great things, and also that you'll share your creations with us. We want to see your take on this. The links to that are down in the post. Now, go make beauty from ashes, and may your life be freely whole.